She was laughed at for being fat and unmarried in Nigeria, but when she moved to Korea to start over, she found herself in the arms of a mysterious billionaire with secrets darker than she ever imagined. Just when love began to bloom, danger knocked, lies unfolded, and hearts were tested. This isn't just a story of romance, it's one of courage, betrayal, and a love that defied every odd. Sit back, relax, and let this unforgettable journey steal your heart. Joanna lived in a small town in Nigeria. She was kind, smart, and always smiling. But people didn't see her good heart. They only saw that she was fat, very fat, and that she was still not married at 32. Everywhere she went, people whispered behind her back, "Look at her, still single. She eats too much. No man wants a woman like that." Joanna would act like she didn't hear them, but at night, she cried into her pillow. Her heart hurt. She tried to lose weight. She even stopped eating rice, her favorite food. But nothing worked. Her body stayed big. One day, at a wedding, the aunties laughed loudly when she walked in. "She's still coming to weddings. She should plan hers." The words hit her like stones. That night, Joanna made a decision. She would leave Nigeria. She would go far away. She wanted to start a new life where no one knew her. Joanna picked Korea because she had seen the country in movies. It looked clean and quiet, and the people seemed nice. She used all her savings to buy a one-way ticket. Her family cried. "You don't even speak Korean," her mother said. "I will learn," Joanna replied. She hugged them and left. Korea was cold when she arrived. Everything was new: food, language, people. They stared at her big body, but they didn't laugh. At least, not loudly. She worked hard, smiled often, and learned a little Korean every day. Still, deep inside, her heart was lonely. One rainy evening, she forgot her umbrella at the bus stop. Just then, a black car stopped. A tall, handsome man stepped out. He held an umbrella over her head. "You okay?" he asked in soft English. Joanna nodded, heart pounding. That was the beginning. Joanna stared at the man. His eyes were kind. His black hair was soft and shiny. He wore a neat suit and shiny shoes. He looked like someone from a K-drama. "Thank you," she said, her voice small. He smiled. "My name is Minho." "Joanna," she replied. He walked her to the bus stop and waited with her. He didn't look at her body the way others did. He talked to her like she was special. After that day, she saw him often. At first, it felt like magic. Minho would drive by the same bus stop every evening. He would stop and smile. Sometimes he brought warm tea. Other times, he just waved. One day, he said, "Can I show you my favorite place?" Joanna hesitated but nodded. He took her to a small hill that overlooked the city. The lights below sparkled like stars. Minho looked at her and said, "I like talking to you, Joanna." Her heart jumped. Nobody had ever said that before. But Joanna was scared. "Why me?" she asked. Minho just smiled. "You listen. You care. You're real." She looked away. Her heart wanted to believe him, but her mind whispered, "It's a trick." Then one evening, she saw a newspaper at the store. On the front page was a photo of Minho. The headline said, "Young billionaire CEO donates to orphanage." Her hands shook. Billionaire? He never told her. That night, she asked him, "Why didn't you say who you are?" Minho looked sad. "Because people change when they know. I wanted to see if you liked me, not my money." Joanna didn't know what to say. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. Her heart was confused. Days passed. Then Minho invited her to a dinner party. "Come as my guest," he said. Joanna panicked. She had nothing fancy to wear. She was scared people would laugh. She thought about saying no, but deep inside, she wanted to go. She wanted to be brave. So she went to the party. The dinner party was inside a big, shiny hotel. Everything looked like a dream. People wore gowns and suits. Joanna felt small. She wore a red dress that she borrowed from a friend. It was a little tight, but she smiled anyway. Minho walked to her and said, "You look beautiful." Everyone stared when they entered the hall. Whispers began. "Who is she?" "Why her?" "She's big." Joanna heard it all. Her hands shook, her smile almost broke, but Minho held her hand tight. "You're okay," he whispered. Dinner began. Minho was the star of the night. Everyone laughed at his jokes, but their eyes kept darting to Joanna. Some smiled fake smiles. Others looked at her with pity. Then came the cruel moment. A woman walked up to Joanna. She wore a silver gown and red lipstick. "I'm Sujin," she said, "Minho's ex." Joanna's chest tightened. Sujin smiled coldly. "He likes helping people. You know, broken birds." Joanna blinked. "Excuse me?" Sujin leaned closer. "Don't fall too deep. He always gets bored." Then she walked away. Joanna ran to the restroom. Tears burned her eyes. She looked in the mirror and saw the girl everyone laughed at. The fat girl. The girl who didn't belong. She stayed in there for a long time, but Minho found her. "Joanna," he said, voice soft. "Come out." She stepped out. He saw her face and frowned. "Sujin?" he asked. Joanna nodded. "She said you like fixing broken things." Minho shook his head. "That's not true. I like you, Joanna. Just you. With your heart, your laugh, your stories." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "But I'm not like them," she said. "I don't belong in your world." Minho took her hand. "Then let's make a new world." Joanna didn't answer Minho right away. Her heart wanted to believe him, but her mind was full of fear. What if Sujin was right? What if Minho was just being kind? Still, she followed him back to the hall. She didn't want to hide anymore. Not from Sujin, not from anyone. But as they walked in, all eyes turned again. This time, Joanna didn't look down. She smiled, small but strong. Later that night, Minho drove her home. The car was quiet. He finally said, "Joanna, I don't care what people say." She looked at him. "But I do. I've heard it my whole life." "I want to protect you," Minho whispered. Joanna touched the window and stared at the stars. "I don't want to be someone you have to protect. I want to be strong beside you, not behind you." Minho smiled. "Then let me help you grow stronger." Something inside Joanna shifted. It felt like fire, not anger, but power. That night, she made a plan. She would open a center for kids like her who felt left out, fat kids, quiet kids, dreamers. She would become someone who could stand beside Minho. Weeks passed. Joanna worked every day, teaching in the mornings, learning Korean at night. She looked for a place to rent for her dream center. Minho visited often. He helped her search, brought food, and even sat through boring calls with building owners. They started laughing more, talking more, touching hands and sharing quiet moments. It felt real, warm, safe. But one evening, Minho showed up with a strange look on his face. "Joanna," he said, voice tight, "I have to go away for a few days." "Why?" she asked, confused. He hesitated. "It's business?" She waited for more. He didn't explain. "When will you be back?" she asked. "Soon," he said, and kissed her forehead. Then he left. 3 days passed. Then 5. Then 7. No calls. No texts. Joanna tried to stay calm, but her mind spun in circles. Did he leave her? Was Sujin right? She walked to the park where they once watched the stars. Alone, cold, hurt. Suddenly her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. A message appeared. "If you want Minho to live, stay quiet. He's not who you think he is." Joanna froze. Her hands shook. Another message came. "You don't belong with him. Leave Korea or you'll regret it." She looked around. Was someone watching her? She ran home, locked the door, and cried. Was Minho in trouble? Or was this a cruel joke? She tried calling him. No answer. She searched the internet. No news, no updates. Then she did something wild. She went to Minho's company. The building was tall, cold, and full of glass. Guards stood at the entrance. "I'm looking for Minho," Joanna said. The guard frowned. "He's not available?" "I'm his friend." The guard looked doubtful. "Wait here." She waited and waited. Finally, a woman in black walked up. "I'm Mina," she said. "I work with Mr. Minho." Joanna nodded. "Is he okay?" Mina's face was blank. "He's away. No details. I suggest you go home." Joanna's chest burned. "Please, I got messages. Bad ones." Mina's eyes narrowed. "From who?" "I don't know," Joanna cried. "They said he's not who I think he is." Mina took a step closer. "And what do you think he is?" Joanna whispered. "Kind, brave, honest." Mina sighed. "Then hold on to that. He's facing something hard right now." Then she turned and walked away. Joanna went home, heart full of fear. The next night, her doorbell rang. She looked through the peephole. No one. Just a small black box on the floor. Joanna opened the door slowly, picked it up, and closed the door fast. Inside the box was a phone. It buzzed. A video message started playing. It was Minho. His face was bruised. His hands were tied. "Joanna?" he said, voice shaky. "Don't trust anyone, not even Mina. They want my company. They're using you to break me. I'm sorry." The video ended. Joanna dropped the phone. Her knees went weak. Everything she knew was falling apart. But one thing was clear. She had to save him. Joanna didn't sleep that night. She held the phone close, watching the video over and over. Minho was in pain. But even then, he thought of her. He told her not to trust Mina. He warned her. Joanna wiped her tears. "I won't cry anymore," she whispered. "I'll fight for you." She started with a plan. She called the only person she could trust, her student's father, Mr. Park, a kind policeman who liked her meat pies. When she told him everything, he didn't laugh. He believed her. "I know Minho," he said. "He's a good man. Let me help." Joanna smiled. For the first time in days, her heart felt warm. They worked together, slowly and secretly. Mr. Park made calls. Joanna collected messages. She pretended to go on with her normal life. But inside, she burned with hope. One evening, Joanna sat in her room, writing a letter. It was for Minho. "Dear Minho," she wrote, "I don't care about your money. I don't care what they say about you. I care about your laugh, your soft eyes, the way you never made me feel small. I will wait for you. I will fight for you, because love doesn't walk away." She folded the letter and held it to her chest. Then a soft knock came at her door. She opened it slowly. It was a boy, holding a white envelope. He whispered, "From someone who loves you." Joanna opened it fast. Inside was a photo, Minho's face, smiling, and one sentence, "I believe in you too." Her eyes filled with tears. It was his handwriting. He was alive. 2 days later, Mr. Park called. "They moved him," he said, "to an old house outside the city." Joanna's heart beat fast. "Can we get him?" Mr. Park nodded. "Yes, but you must stay safe." Joanna agreed, but her heart had other plans. That night, she wore her red dress again, the one she wore to the party. She looked at herself in the mirror and said, "You are brave. You are beautiful. You are loved." Then she snuck out. She wanted Minho to see her first, not the police, not the villains, just her. The house was dark and quiet. Joanna hid behind trees and moved slowly. She saw a light in the window. Then, him, Minho, sitting in a chair, bruised but breathing. Her heart almost burst. Suddenly, someone grabbed her arm. It was Mina. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed. Joanna didn't flinch. "You lied. You tried to scare me." Mina's eyes were cold. "You don't belong in our world." Joanna stepped closer. "Maybe, but he belongs in mine." Just then, sirens wailed in the distance. Mr. Park had arrived. Mina ran. Joanna rushed inside. "Minho!" she cried. He looked up. His eyes softened. "Joanna." She ran to him and held his face. "You're safe now," she whispered. "I found you." Minho stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Joanna never left his side. She fed him soup, wiped his tears, and read him stories. They laughed. They cried. They healed. On the 3rd night, he took her hand. "Do you still believe in us?" he asked. She nodded. "More than ever." He smiled. "Then let's build something new. A world where no one laughs at you. A place where love is bigger than fear." Joanna kissed his forehead. "With you, I can do anything." Outside the window, snow began to fall. Inside the room, love grew like fire. And for the first time in her life, Joanna didn't feel too big. She felt just right. If you found this story interesting and want more of it, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.